It wasn't always like this. And as the title says, fitness did change my life. It totally flipped my life on its head going back 10 years ago. Prior to that, was I ambitious? I don't really think I was. What is going on, people? Welcome back to the Beautiful Struggle podcast with myself, Jay Davis, aka Magicey, live from the home studio, complete with sound effects. So yes, clap away, ladies and gents. Don't worry, I'm not going to rinse the sound effects. That's all you get, and I'm just getting used to this soundboard that I've got. So today's episode is just me. It's a bit of a milestone coming up, so I thought it would be important to do this. Number one, as I do with all my content that I put out there, for me to look back on in years to come at where I was at this point. But also number two, to give you a bit of a backstory behind where I was prior to everything you see now with Magicey, with bodybuilding, with the podcast. It wasn't always like this. And as the title says, fitness did change my life. It totally flipped my life on its head going back 10 years ago. Prior to that, was I ambitious? I don't really think I was, if I'm honest. Of course, I had passions in my life, which was basketball and DJing, obviously the family. But in terms of having an ambition within that, I kind of just went with the flow, kind of spinning my wheels a little bit, literally, with the DJing. I just knew I enjoyed it, and I thought, let's see where we get to. And in all honesty, what I achieved within DJing, I'm super proud of. I don't think I was supposed to make it where I was, because I'm from a small town in the valleys, which is renowned for like techno and hard house. So for me to be playing rap and hip hop and R&B, wearing basketball vests and sweatbands and dungarees and backwards caps, I don't think I was the only guy in the village. Not the gay in the village, I was the only guy in the village that was pretty much into that. So as you can imagine, I had a few passing comments of how much of a bellend it was. But, that's something that you just deal with, because if you're passionate about something, I've said this over and over again, passion takes you places. So I was passionate about music, I was passionate about DJing, and ended up, being put in places which I never thought possible. I don't want this to be about the DJing, but just to give you a backstory, I went from playing in like a local club to less than 5 people to DJing concerts with 20,000 people in, supporting some of the biggest artists on the planet, being on record labels, making official mixes with some of the biggest artists on the planet, from Missy Elliott to J. Cole. It was a lot. And looking back at it now, it was, a huge chapter in my life, of course. I've got friggin' a sleeve tattoo with Dex and everything. Is still a massive part of my life now. I've got Dex in front of me here. But, when you are passionate, this is what I want you to take away from this, is don't give a fuck what people say to you, about you. Just crack on. Because if the passion is real and it's not forced, it will take you places. 100% it will. When it comes down to like the fitness and everything like that, I remember starting all my YouTube videos, filming myself in the gym on a GoPro. And I remember the passing comments then of like, what the fuck is this guy doing, filming himself? Of course, I'd got in shape, and I say that lightly because it was more of a racing snake shape, but I started filming myself for YouTube, because that's what the people that I'd looked up to and had followed to get me into that shape that I was. So I wanted to be a part of that, and I was passionate about it. And then that has obviously been, a catalyst for where I am now with Magicey. So just take that from that, is that no matter what people say to you, if you want to do something and if you're passionate about it, just fucking get it done. Just remain passionate and true to that passion. The worst thing I see on social media these days is that when people kind of force a passion, and that's where I think people get lost. and then they'll get the comments from people, is because they're trying to fit themselves into someone else's passion or someone else's obsession. You know, especially in the fitness and bodybuilding game, everyone wants to be a part of it, but some people just haven't got it in them, and that's cool. That's absolutely fine, and that's why it frustrates a lot of people that are doing it, because they are passionate about it, because they see, you know, it's clear as day, the ones that are forcing themselves to try and fit themselves into that box and fit themselves into an obsession that they're not really obsessed with. They're trying to make themselves obsessed with. You know, the ones that are posting every meal on their story on IG. You know, some of us, we eat 6 times a day. We're not about to post every single meal on our IG story because it's just fucking another day, another meal. But you'll see people posting stuff because they want to, like, oh, right, this is going to motivate me now, and this is going to be what I need to be, you know, what I need to be doing to be obsessed and be passionate about it. But then you'll see them the next day smashing all the food they can eat. So it's yes, and this isn't a dig, this is just what we see on social media. You know, stop trying to force yourself into an obsession and a passion that you're not really obsessed or passionate about. It's cool just to do it because you enjoy doing it. You don't have to be like 150% or nothing, you know. I've gone on a mad tangent there, but going back to the DJing side of things, I was at that point where with DJing, I was obviously out in the nights, later nights, 3, 4, 5 nights a week sometimes. Pizza on City Road, McDonald's drive-through, whatever was open, Chippy Lane, Chippy Alley, whatever you want to call it on Cardiff. So I got to the point where I was like, I was carrying some shit weight, if I'm honest, and I'd said year after year after year, oh, next year I'm going to be in shape for summer. And guess what? I start my new diet, and I'm sure many people have been there as well. They start their new diet, and then 3, 4, maybe not even that long, but 4 or 5 weeks, you've fallen off, and you've sacked it off, and you go away on the holiday in the summer, and you're still the same. That was me. That was me year after year after year, 25, 26, 27, 28 years old. I got to 29 and I was like, 30 next year, mate. It's a big one, and I'm weird with numbers. You probably know that if you follow all my stuff. I was like, I need to sort this shit out. So 30 years of age was approaching. I am going to be in the best shape of my life by the time I turn 30. So I started it off by just watching YouTube, kind of self-learning. What are macros? When's the best time to train? When's the best time to do cardio? What's fasted cardio? What's intermittent fasting? What's if it fit your macros? Can I eat shit and still get in shape? Are donuts on the menu? Basically, all the things that we probably know now as common sense, but going back then 10, 11 years ago now, really, they weren't a thing. It was something that you had to kind of look into. So I put that research into play from January 17th, 2014. I know the date because I had them weird numbers. And I had 4 months to get in shape for my 30th, which was May 15th. And we did it. I say we. I always put me and someone else in the mix. It's me and the devil on my shoulder, this guy. We did it. It was 4 months, brutal, terrible kind of approach to dieting, terrible approach to cardio, training, but we got it fucking done. I just wanted to get a blank canvas, and that we did. It was a racing snake shape. And throughout that process, though, as much as I look back at it and laugh at the methods I used to get down in that, in terms of body weight, it unlocked a mentality in me that I never had prior to that. And that's what I'm saying. Fitness literally changed my life. Because from that experience, that 4 months, I had just opened a door in my mind where I was like, if I want to do anything in life, I can do it. There is no limit. If I want it bad enough, and if I'm passionate about it, then I can achieve it. And that's what I kind of set out to do from that moment. Was it a conscious thought to be where I'm at now? Absolutely not. Like, the bodybuilding side of things crept in the last 4 or 5 years, if I'm honest. But for the initial part of it, every year I was just dieting down for my birthday because I held on to this birthday, this thought of my birthday as like this golden date. I was like, right, every year we're going to diet down for my birthday, which also coincided with body power. And every year we're going to be a little bit better. And that's exactly what I did for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. Until it got to the point where I was like, all right, I need to do an off season. I need to do a bulk. And then I pushed it a little bit longer. I wanted to get in shape for summer, so I wasn't quite in shape for May. I pushed it to the like July or August or whatever. So, that was a fun time because everything in terms of what everyone talks about now is like, the golden days of body power. That was like those days where you'd have like all the YouTubers, I can't even think of them now, but like, the Hodge twins and CT Fletcher and all these guys, they were all on YouTube, and it was a different time. And back then, in fact, you'll watch a lot of stuff now where obviously all the top bodybuilders are putting content out. It wasn't quite like that then. There was only a handful of them doing it. It was more like if you were filming yourself in the gym, I think these guys used to look at it as like, what the fuck are you doing? Because it was more of the influencers that were doing that, not like the high-end bodybuilders and putting the amount of content out like they're doing now. So thank fuck they're doing it now, because obviously Magicey is soaring. But yeah, it wasn't like that then. It was just the influencers. So when you would go onto YouTube and watch stuff, you would be watching the influencers that everyone slates now. But to be honest, they were the guys that kind of kicked it all off. All this YouTube and everyone doing their prep series and off-season series. It was through them. Obviously, there was stuff prior to that like the Jay Cutler DVDs and everything, but the influencers kind of paved the way, really, for all the high-end bodybuilders, if you really sit back and think about it. So shout out to the influencers with the discount codes. So yeah, that, like, what I'm trying to get across is that it wasn't quite an overnight thing where I went from, right, I'm DJ now, to now I'm a bodybuilder. It was a constant kind of process over the years. So from 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, over those years, I was kind of evolving in terms of like my knowledge, my approach to training. And outside of that, I was also improving my skills, if you want to call it that, with the camera stuff. Like I started documenting all my YouTube stuff 2015. I didn't feel comfortable doing it until I was like, I'd been doing it a little while. And yeah, we started recording that. I say we, me and the devil. We started documenting stuff the year after, and then I started putting YouTube stuff out. And then I was like, right, okay, so if I document everything now, I'll get snapped up by a supplement company. And I was that guy. Like, everyone slates everyone now for like wanting to be, sponsored. How do you get sponsored and all that? But I was that guy. It's not until I kind of Magicey started bubbling in the background where I could see the industry for what it was and what you really needed to be successful in it, and what was real and what wasn't real. Obviously, a lot of the people that I was watching on YouTube when I was learning, as Magicey was bubbling, I started actually being their videographers. Lex Griffin from Gymshark, the Gymshark's first ever athlete. I filmed his wedding. He's no longer married to her now, to Lainey, but I filmed his wedding, and off the back of that, started doing all of his content for YouTube and for Gymshark, and then we did some stuff with Monster Energy. And Lex is going to be someone I'm going to get on the podcast, actually, because he's got some really, really cool stories. But, these guys that I'd watched and almost put them on this pedestal and idolized through my passion of fitness. It's always going to come back to the passion. Through my passion of that, and obviously wanting to learn, whether that be on the fitness side of things or the camera side of things, I was able to then knock about with these people and put me in these places with people that I'd idolized for years. And then I started filming for, it started expanding from there. But it's an exact replica. When I think about it and really sit back, it's an exact replica of the DJing days. You know, I wanted to do something, I was passionate about it, and I was doing everything I could to put myself in the circles that I needed to be in to progress. Networking, as everyone likes to call it now. I think there's ways of networking. There's the networking just for the sake of it, or there's networking because you really want to be part of something. Um, I really wanted to be part of the fitness industry, whatever that took. But it just quite so happened I was handy with a camera in my hand, and then I got snapped up by Body Power. They'd seen a few of my edits, ended up going to India. That catapulted that then into obviously the other eyes in the industry. Um, and it kind of evolved from there. So that's just kind of like a brief deep dive on where the mental side of things, in terms of like, having that ambition, having that passion. You put that passion with the ambition, and you can achieve anything you want that you put your mind to. Definitely. On to like where I am now with the bodybuilding side of things. Bodybuilding was, I'd obviously got in shape for like photo shoots and things, and I did the show in 2016. And obviously at the same time, Magicey was happening in the background as well. So I was getting influenced quite a lot by the people I was around. But the majority of the people that I was around at that time were the influencers. It wasn't really competitive, hardcore bodybuilders. So with the with the first show that I ever did, or competing, my first experience of competing, it was something that I did on a whim. I decided like a 5 or 6 days out that I wanted to do the show. I was dieting for photo shoot. I was already in shape. So I did the show, and I hated every second of it, like looking back. Didn't want to do it, really, realistically. But everyone was like, oh, you should do it, mate. You're in shape. So peer pressure kind of played its part in that. And I think now, because of like how I've matured, if someone was to say that to me now, I would probably just tell them to fuck off. No, because I'm so like set in my ways of my plan. Going back to my own preps in the last 2 years, where I prepped alongside some of my mates, and they've decided to jump in an early show, and they've asked me to jump in as well, and I'm like, nope, this is my plan, this is my show, this is my show dates, this is what I'm doing, and then I've stuck to my guns. So I think as you mature, I've always said, like, what you want when you're 25 years of age isn't what you want when you're 35 years of age and beyond. You've got to take something. I'm going off on another tangent, but like, there's a lot of decisions that a lot of people are making now when they're 25 years old, which could affect the rest of their lives. And I know, just because of the experiences I've had and the evolution of me as a person, whether that be professionally or personally, what I wanted when I was 25 isn't what I wanted when I was 35 years of age. And if you've made changes to anything that are irreversible when you're 25 years of age, that's going to be a serious regret. So I'd like, to think that me just giving my little bit of old man knowledge here is going to kind of get through to some people, that just be careful what you're doing out there, especially in this bodybuilding game. It's a dangerous one. It can be a dangerous one. So, like I said, I've gone off on a tangent, but the 2016 show, I just remember being up there like a rabbit in the headlights, and I got off that stage and I was just an emotional wreck, and I was thinking, I never want to go through this ever again. All of it, like the tan, the posing, on stage in my trunks, everyone looking at me. I was like, oh my God, this is horrendous. We didn't think we'd be back up there just a few years later. But again, in the short space of time that was, 2016 to 2022, sure enough, I was back up there 6 years later. Again, what I wanted when I was however old I was in 2016 wasn't what I wanted when I was in 2022, just in that short space of time. So you can change a lot, so just be careful with it. But yeah, the show, after that show, I was like, right, I'm just gonna go back to just concentrating on Magic Eye and enjoy my training, dieting, staying in shape, and wherever that leads, that leads. But obviously, Magic Eye started leveling up, I guess, getting put in front of more eyes, and I ended up, being the videographer for Two Bros, which is obviously the highest kind of regarded federation in the UK. It's the only kind of lane to get your pro status. So I was starting to film some real top end bodybuilders. And little did I know that was just rubbing off on me every friggin' shoot, to be honest. To the point where I started like following a lot of the hardcore kind of bodybuilders, because up until this time I still didn't really know many of the hardcore bodybuilders. Now you might think I've been a fan of hardcore bodybuilding for 20 years, but the reality is it wasn't until like maybe 2018 that I started kind of realizing who these people were. I remember going to Body Power with Sully. Shout out to Sully. Me and Sully are still friends, by the way. It's just he doesn't train with me because he can't deal with me on my prep. I remember going to Body Power with him, and like he would be reeling off all these people, like, oh, that's that, and I would have no fucking clue who these people were. And these are names which I'm not going to say it on you because I'm embarrassed to say, but these are names which are pretty top end bodybuilders. But yeah, it was only 2018 where I started kind of, because I was filming them, I was getting a little bit more like, again, being a sponge. This was said on the Mike and Lisa podcast, and I actually spoke to one of my clients, Luke, yesterday about being a sponge, how I've obviously soaked up all this knowledge and wisdom over the years. And sometimes you soak it up without even knowing it. And how you soak it up without even knowing it is because you're passionate about it. You're taking things in. It's like when you're in school, I think. When you enjoy a subject, like going back to when I was in school, I enjoyed art. So, art was like something I kind of excelled at a little bit. But then if you look at like the likes of maths and things, I wasn't really interested. Pretty shit at that, dog shit. So, when you're passionate about something and you've got this underlying like connection with it, you're gonna pick things up without even knowing it. And then obviously that kind of transitioned me then into following a lot of the bodybuilders, watching a lot of the bodybuilders on YouTube rather than these influencers walking around Body Power with their tops off. So that's kind of like where I ended up being with the bodybuilding side of things. And from there then, because I was obviously following them, I started wanting to maybe work with some of the UK guys. So I dropped a few messages out there just on a whim off the Magic Eye Instagram. JP was one of them. I think Luke Sando was another one of them. Rest in peace. Holland's Head. Flex. He was I think he was home a lot more back then. I don't think he'd actually fully transitioned over to Florida. But yeah, the messages were thrown out there and I was, ghosted. They ghosted me basically. And I was like, all right, cool. It is what it is. I know my role. I'll just carry on doing what I'm doing. And, maybe one day there's a chance I'll be able to film for these guys. And then going forward rather, fast forward into 2019, I think it was, after I started filming all the Two Bro stuff. For a good bit of time, I put like a lot of edits out for them. I had a guy drop in my DM and was trained by JP. Love your stuff. Would you want to do some work for us? And I sat back and I looked at that message and I was like, man, he ghosted me like a year ago. It was like 18 months or whatever. He completely ignored my message. And again, passion takes you places. If you stick at it and you're doing what you enjoy, what you love to do, you will end up getting where you're supposed to be. I'm not going to say you're going to end up where you want to be. You end up where you're supposed to be. This wasn't where I wanted to be at one point in my life. But it's where I'm supposed to be, 100%. I just feel it. With the podcasts, I'm putting all this effort into doing this podcast because I see the potential in it. Like I saw the potential in Magicey back in the day. Like I see the potential in... Now I see the potential in my bodybuilding. That's why I'm back at it. Obviously, I put the podcast out saying I was done. I'm sure by now, most of you will know that I'm not done. Far from fucking done. But I'm back at it. So that's where I was with the content, filmed a lot of stuff for JP. Then that started obviously putting me in front of many, many eyes, because me and Jordan kind of just clicked, and I was putting 2 or 3 videos out a month for them, creating one of those signature Magicey edits that I like to put out. And that, I think that, without putting myself on a pedestal here, 'cause I'm definitely not that person to do that, those Magicey edits of Jordan and Corin training like in FLF or MJs, they definitely set the tone for this over dramatic edit that we might see or have seen on Instagram. I think it's died down a little bit now. A lot of people are going full on with their editing, like using all sorts of effects and stuff. That's not me. I know my lane. I'm going to stay in my lane, and I'm going to stay true to what Magicey is, and that's why I think I'm still here now with the videography. I've seen people come and go in the videography game, whether that be because they've overpriced themselves and then no one wants to work with them because there's a new videographer on the scene that's charging half the price, when ultimately the client just wants content. It doesn't care about like your resume and how big of a dick you are or how big of a dick you've got in the industry. Either or. So I think, that's why I've kind of been able to stand the test of time in the videography game. It's about 8 years now. It's about 8 years, and what started as me filming on a GoPro in JJB Gym, which is now DW Sports in the retail park. It's not bad going. We're definitely not done with it. I've got a few projects lined up, and I'm always like grafting. I'm always hustling with it. I'm always like trying to think of new ways to build Magicey. And it's not about building it in terms of the content. Obviously, I'm looking to improve my content, but I know what I'm good at, and I'll stay in that lane. But it's more of just making Magicey more of putting it in a position of power. Obviously, we've had the event this year with Nathan Diasher at the gym. We've got the podcast, which is obviously attached to Magicey. So it's about just expanding the whole brand and what the tree or the umbrella of Magicey. I keep thinking my phone's going off, but it's that little candle that I've put there just for the effect. So that brings me up to like where I am now with everything. So I wanted to give you guys not the exclusive, but just kind of give you a rundown of where like mentally I've been. Now, you would have seen me put the podcast out of, I'm done with bodybuilding. I need to focus on my health and fitness. Being in hospital scared me. And all those things are true. I was scared. I was done. But it's not until you kind of walk away from something, you realize how much something means to you. You would have seen this with relationships, I'm sure, where you've called it a day with someone and then you regret it. Or with a job, you've left a job that you thought you hated and then you end up in a worse job, and then you're thinking, fuck, why did I leave that job? The grass is always greener, as they say. And that's kind of where it was with that decision, really. I walked away from bodybuilding and thought, yeah, I'm done. This is me now. I need to like just focus on the health, focus on the fitness side of things, and I need to just be a little bit more conscious about it all. But then 1 week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, 5 weeks go by, and every single week and every single day, you are mentally slipping. Your family are picking up on it. Your friends are picking up on it. You're aware of it, but you're thinking, right, just get to Christmas. That's what I was thinking. Get to Christmas, enjoy Christmas, the new year, new me, fresh start, and you'll be all right. You can just carry on this path of walking away from bodybuilding. But I just couldn't get that far. Like, I had got to the point with my mentality after being ill where I was almost seeking a therapist. I'd actually spoke to one of my mates who's a therapist. We were going to get a session in. He was going to be like a full-on professional session. He was going to sit down and have like an hour consultation with me. Never thought I'd say that. Never thought in a million years I would say that I was going to get therapy. But I was at that point mentally. I could feel myself slipping day by day. And, to the point where I was an emotional wreck when it came to having a conversation about bodybuilding or where I was physique-wise or how I thought I looked. My missus would ask me. I couldn't answer her. Big old lump in the throat. It was hard. It was like the hardest time of my life. And there was many talks, like obviously the mileage I do with Magicey. There was many times I was on that road and I was just talking to myself and, am I done? Do I go back to it? And that, you have conversations with certain people and they say, oh, it doesn't sound like you're done, i.e. Cal. Doesn't sound like you're done there, Magic. It was a tough time. And it got to the point then when we got to like Christmas. Obviously Christmas, I love anyone that knows me. I love fucking Christmas. Got that done. Had a good drink. Had a few like nights out and that. Went for a night out with the boys, and after a good few hours of drinking, the conversation came up, and I was like in the middle of a bar in Cardiff crying because I couldn't talk about it. And it was after that, like 2 days after, once the hangover had fucked off, I was sitting there thinking, this is not me. Like, you didn't put all this work in over the last 10 years to be at this place, this place, not just physique wise, but mentally. Like, the door that unlocked when I turned 30, that door had slammed shut. The door had slammed shut with a big old fucking bolt on it. At that point, there was just a little bit of light coming through in the crack of the door. Jordan sent me a poem yesterday, JP, because when I got to that point, I was like, I need to speak to the people that I care, or I care what they think in terms of my bodybuilding and what they think I should do, because I'm not sure if I'm making the right decision. I'm not sure if I need to go back to it. What do I do here? So Callum was obviously one of them. Obviously, I spoke to the missus as well. Mike and Lisa Gelsey, which have been on the podcast. And the third person was Jordan. Or Jordan and Corin, rather. And the conversation I had with Jordan at that time it blew my mind. I don't think I've ever felt so motivated to get back to something and get shit done because of the words that he said to me. But yeah, JP sent me a poem yesterday. I'm not sure if he's written it or not. But I basically said that you sparked me getting back at it. So he sent me this. This is going to be, I haven't put this out there, but I'm going to read it. We got 17% left on the battery, so I'm going to try and wrap this up before it ends. I knew that I was dying. Something in me said, go ahead, die, sleep, become as them, accept. Then something else in me said, no, save the tiniest bit. It needn't be much, just a spark. A spark can set a whole forest on fire. Just a spark. Save it. Sent me that last night. And it hit home. And that's kind of where I was with it. That's kind of, a very nice way of putting the conversation that we had. So that's why I'm back at it. The plans is just to be at it. we'll see what happens. Time will tell. But I think for this episode, we're pretty much done. I just wanted to give you a little backstory on where we were, what we've done, where we are, where we're going. Who knows? For the podcast, now we've got this home studio. The Beautiful Struggle Unplugged podcast will be coming soon, which is basically going to be in addition to the in-person studio session podcasts, where I take it online, because logistically it is a nightmare getting around the UK to obviously get guests on. And even though sometimes I might be in an area where a guest is, they might not be available. I've got many contacts in other countries, stateside, that we had planned to do podcasts across the Arnold's weekend, but due to schedules, and it's a busy old weekend anyway, couldn't fit them in. So I thought, you know what? I just need to bite the bullet, take this online, and put it out in addition to the studio sessions. So you're going to be getting more frequent content now. We'll have online podcasts where we'll get overseas guests, might even just get a group of us on just to fucking chop it up and have a laugh. And obviously we will continue with the in-person studio sessions. I'm going to try and do one at least per month in person, because I know you love them. Get those stories out of some of the people that we admire, and then also try and do that with the online ones, and add a little bit of banter in there as well, a bit of light-heartedness. So that's it for this episode. We're about 36 minutes in. Short and sweet. It's just me talking to a camera, but I think you've heard enough of my voice. I just want to thank you for, if you've made it this far, listening, watching. For those of you that fall into any of the stuff I've talked about, take something away from it. The key message is passion takes you places. So just remember that, and make sure your passion is real and true. Don't fake your shit. Don't fake your passion. Don't fake your obsession. Don't try and fit in a box you don't fit in. Fall where you fall and run with it. And that's it. So like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the next episode of the Beautiful Struggle podcast. We'll finish on a sound effect. Peace.